We continue on then with chapter 19, which is a much longer chapter than the ones that we've been looking at, which deals with commitments or samaya or vows. And so here Samittabhadra divulges the supreme commitments. And the Sanskrit term samaya is defined as a commitment requiring the taking of a conventional oath of allegiance, which is laid down because benefits are obtained when it is guarded and retribution is enacted when it degenerates. So in a way it's very similar to karma. Okay? The essence of the supreme commitments is that dissonant mental states may be engaged without accruing negative acts because the vows are integrated with these commitments. The pratimoksha vow, the bodhisattva vow, and the vows of the awareness holders are gathered without contradiction in the commitments of the secret mantra. So this one takes all of those types of vows and discusses how that they are all covered within what is being described here, the vows being described in Guhyagarbha. In this integration, the most minute defects of the observance of the lower vows are purified. Even the four inimical defeats, murder, stealing, lying, and sexual conduct, are not contradicted because the phenomena are transformed into the mandala of deities. Similarly, the vows of bodhisattvas are not contradicted because they are retained by extraordinary compassion and skillful means. All such vows, then, are inherent in liberation and the practices of sexual yoga. There are 5 basic and 10 ancillary vows. The former are the commitments never to abandon the 3 precious jewels, to venerate the spiritual master, not to interrupt the recitation of mantras and securing of the sealed hand gestures, to have loving kindness for those who enter the genuine path, and not to divulge secret truths. These are defined as aspects of Buddha body, speech, and mind to be guarded in order that Buddha nature in all beings not be obscured. The ancillary vows, the 5 mental states which are not to be abandoned, and the 5 nectars which assist with the observance of the basic commitments. The benefit is the attainment of Buddhahood itself, while the unpleasant results are the retributions enacted when they are broken. These commitments are subsumed by the indestructible reality of Buddha body, speech, and mind. There is also a more detailed enumeration of the 360 subdivisions and, beyond that, inconceivable numerical terms. Then, on keeping the commitments, the yogin is venerated by mundane beings, blessed by sublime beings, and attains the rank of an awareness holder. He or she integrates all vows and commitments and has the ability to restore broken commitments. So there are ways to restore this if we do happen to violate these commitments that we make. So then, chapter 19, we're on page 631, but we're going to start here on 632 at the middle of the page with the definition that was given in that overview. Samaya is translated as word of honor. Benefits are derived through maintaining samaya as follows. So from the Vajra, according to the wisdom intent of all sublime ones, if when receiving empowerment and blessings, fortunate disciples maintain samaya, all their negativities will be incinerated. If samaya is broken, there will be negative repercussions. Having violated the speech of the sublime ones, a destructive curse will naturally occur. Whoever transgresses this sacred bond will be incinerated, even if it is Vajrapani himself. Even common commitments from the sacred wisdom in order to uphold the superbly secret doctrine of the victorious ones without allowing it to diminish, just as it is revealed by the Guru firmly holding the words of commitment, are explained as the samaya. So in brief, samaya is described as not breaching the commitment to abandon that which is to be rejected, to accomplish that which is to be accepted, and to apply exertion toward accumulating even the subtlest aspects of virtue through the three doors of body, speech, and mind. Continuing on then to the next page of 634, we have the actual nature. This includes the root and branch samayas, so two categories here. First, the root samayas resemble the roots of a tree, for if nourished, they are a source of qualities. If not, nothing will arise. Tree goes dead. Okay? In order to guard them, the method and support are referred to as the branch samayas. So, first division are the root samayas down below. And it lists the 5 there and then goes through each of those. So we will do that. The first being to not abandon the unsurpassed. So the 3 jewels must never be abandoned. The 3 jewels abide as the primordial nature of all sentient beings. The path is the intrinsic nature of the indivisible generation and completion stages, so both relative and genuine bodhicitta must not be abandoned. The result is the unsurpassed 3 kayas of the Buddhas, and their speech constitutes the Dharma of Sutra and Tantra, the scriptural understanding and realization of those scriptures. So those who train in this meaning are the Sangha. So we have the 3 jewels then. The nature of the mind of beings is explained to be primordially pure as Buddha. In the Root Tantra, since mind's nature is the fully enlightened Buddha, do not search for Buddha elsewhere. And we've talked about that a number of times. And then even the sound originating from the wheel of syllables constitutes the Dharma. And skipping the quote, the field for accumulating merit and wisdom, positive virtue, is also explained as the Sangha. Again, skipping the quote, the nature of relative and genuine truth is that the mind is naturally pure as Buddha. And those who practice the Dharma of the 2 truths and generation and completion are then the Sangha. Going to the top of the next page, 636, the resultant 3 jewels are then the teacher, the teaching, and those who train in the meaning, the 3 objects of refuge. Then we go on to the second one, which is to respect the Guru, the second root vow, to respect the Guru. In the second paragraph there, the Guru is a guide. The Guru delivers one to the door of the Dharma. In the Vinaya, at the moment of seeing the abbot rise from the cushion. Now that traditionally, when the Lama comes into the room, we stand up and wait till he is seated or she is seated, and then we make prostrations and sit down. The Guru who liberates one's stream of mind is like the teacher who explains the Dharma. Then on page 637, below the 2 quotes at the top, the Guru who reveals upadeshas and transmissions is similar to a virtuous spiritual guide who gives the bodhisattva vows. And then skipping the quote, the Guru who restores broken commitments is the one who bears witness to confession. Again, skipping the quote, the Guru who confers empowerment and samaya is, in the quote, the Vajra Master who confers supreme empowerment, the Tathagata himself. And then, at the bottom of the page, in addition to the above, it is also said that the teacher held in high esteem by everyone who has shown the kindness of teaching some degree of Dharma is considered to be the 6th category, the general Guru. And then moving on to the next page, 638, below the quote at the very top, the methods for showing respect. And those are that the gurus should be regarded as sacred objects, constituting the field for making offerings and accumulating merit. Rely upon them by recognizing oneself as a patient, the Dharma as medicine, internalization as the cure, and the spiritual guide as a highly skillful doctor. Down below the quote, according to the secret mantra Vajrayana, there are 3 ways to respect the Vajra Master, who is said to be the 4th object of refuge. So we have the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, as well as the Vajra Master, who is the 4th. So then the Vajra Master is equal to all Buddhas, at least ideally. So when we're looking at the Vajra Master, the Guru, the teacher, we're looking at them as the Buddha, because the historic Buddha is not here. And so we have to rely on whatever teacher is available to us to help us in that regard. So we treat them as though they are the actual historical Buddha. In the Tantra of Enlightened Mind, the gathering of secret states, a single pore of the Guru is more precious than all the Buddhas in the 10 directions. And then at the top of the next page, through the various ways that please him or her, respect must always be shown. And then we go to the 3rd root vow, to not break the continuity of mantra and mudra. In the middle of the 2nd line, mantra has the stages of method that accomplish the individual cities of the deities. For that, mantra is recited according to the 5 aspects, such as the nature as it is of the deity. And mudra is the branch that supports the accomplishment of the cities, as the mudras of Dharma corresponding to mind, of samaya to speech, of karma to movement, of the great mudra or mahamudra to the kaya of the deity. At best, we practice like a flowing river. Middling, we maintain sessions of day and night. At the very least, we practice on the sacred days of the full moon, the 13th lunar day, 8th day, monthly, yearly, and so forth. So different levels of potential practice there. The 4th root, then at the bottom of the page, the 4th root vow, to show love toward those who have entered the perfectly correct path. Showing love for those who have entered the perfectly correct path means to have loving affection toward one's Vajra relatives. And we are all Vajra relatives with each other. Anybody who has participated in that particular group, Sangha, anybody who participated in that particular teaching or received that particular empowerment. There's different levels that we can look at and talk about in terms of the Vajra brothers and sisters, but those are some examples. And so here he goes on to describe 6 types of Vajra brothers and sisters. First, since all sentient beings are primordial relatives, they are considered to be general relatives. So we respect all sentient beings because of that. Those who have entered the path of Buddhism are relatives who share the same doctrine. Third, those with the same view and conduct are harmonious relatives. Fourth, those with the same guru are familiar relatives. Fifth, those who have received the Dharma together are close relatives. And sixth, those who have received empowerment simultaneously are the closest siblings. So giving 6 different levels. Then one should feel in a sense of affection toward those who have entered the path to liberation as well as the great vehicle. And below the next quote there, loving affection should be fostered for Vajra brothers and sisters. Then moving on to the 5th root vow at the top of 641. To not expose the secret meaning to others. And we've talked about that before. To not expose the secret means that the profound view, meditation, conduct, and result of secret mantra should be kept extremely private from those who are unsuitable vessels. So then, there's a long quote here that goes through the various kinds of things from the subtle and extensive. And so it lists the things that are to be kept, the things that are related to samaya, the sound, the faults and shortcomings, the requested to be kept secret, and so forth. But those are all then repeated in the paragraphs at the very bottom of the page, or summarized there. The profound view, fearless conduct, name and mantra of the deity, as well as the signs of accomplishment, are the four general secrets. The practice, time, companions, and substances are the four interim secrets. The first portion, the dharma, and all sacred substances are the secret that is meant to be kept. The advice that is given by the guru and Vajra relatives is requested to be kept secret. So who then are the 10 to keep secrets from? Those who have perverted or unbroken samaya, who lack samaya, or have not seen the mandala, whether they are familiar, relative, or not. And then from the Magnificent Wisdom Lightning, when a person is not a suitable vessel, this must be kept secret from them at all times and in all situations. Even for those who are suitable vessels without empowerment, this must not be explained to them. So we can give some general information to those that are at those broader levels of Vajra relatives, if you will, but we need to be more careful in terms of the details, the empowerments, and so forth. And then, how is it to be maintained? The mind should not consider revealing it. Physically, everything should be practiced in a hidden way. Verbally, even if one has a Vajra tongue, this secret must never be expressed. And then, the next paragraph, not abandoning the deity, respecting the guru is the source of siddhis, and not breaking the continuity of the mantra and mudra constitute the samaya that accomplishes special qualities. The branches of this are to show respect for the Vajra brothers and sisters and those who have entered the perfectly correct path. This protects one from disturbing the guru's mind. Going to the next page, 643, just down below the first quote, since the source for accomplishing siddhis of the guru is the guru, if the guru is pleased, siddhis are received. And then the quote, abandon all other ways of making offerings and commence by making pure offerings to the guru. By pleasing the guru, the supreme qualities of omniscience will manifest without exception. And then down below the next quote, since the guru is principal among the mandala deities, it is necessary only to please the guru. And then the next paragraph, each of these five never departs from being the intrinsic nature of enlightened body, speech, and mind. They abide as the three samayas of enlightened body, speech, and mind. A couple more lines down. Furthermore, respect from the three doors should be shown to the guru and Vajra relatives. And then another line down, secrecy means to conceal through the activities of the three doors. So body, speech, and mind, all of the things that we do. Now in the West these days, most things are considered to be self-secret. That is, that they're secret in and of themselves, that people wouldn't probably try to figure it out unless they were already interested enough and willing to go through all of these things to really understand it anyway. And so it is self-secret because of that, so that it doesn't really require a lot of extra effort on our part. But I do think that we still need to respect the basic ideas of not sharing this level of detail with people unless they really are engaged in that process or have received the empowerments and so forth. The second division then, we had the first division was the root samayas, and so now we have the 10 branch samayas. And the first of the five, so it's two sets of five. So the first one are the five to not abandon. These are the five poisons. So he starts off the 5 passions. By knowing their intrinsic nature, they need not be abandoned. The passions will support the path, so they need not be abandoned. Since they are kayas and wisdoms, they need not be abandoned. So this is the tantric view of these things. And then in that first quote, the nature of a deluded mind is the nature of Ajasattva. The nature of Ajasattva is the nature just as it is. And in the last paragraph on the page, by nature the passions are perfectly pure. There is nothing to abandon or accept. According to relative truth, passions are impermanent, like a mirage that instantaneously vanishes. So they self-abandon. Although appearing, there is nothing to identify, since their nature has no true inherent existence, leaving nothing to be abandoned. Then going on to the next page, 645, below the quote, according to the genuine path, they have never existed as anything at all. Nothing will be found, and nothing will be abandoned. Skipping the 3 next quotes there, so down to the bottom of the page, starting with the paragraph that says second. If this is maintained with the method, then the passions support the path and need not be abandoned. The intrinsic nature of the 5 passions is the 5 wisdoms. In the Ocean of Magical Manifestation Matrix, it states, the path of passion is great purity. So as long as we have the correct view of this, it doesn't mean that from a relative point of view it makes all of these things acceptable to do unless you have the correct view. You have to have pure view in order for these things to be acceptable. Down at the beginning of the long section of commentary, about the middle of the page there, if there are no passions to be abandoned, there is no antidote. Skipping a couple lines, the nature of phenomena is inherently empty. Since the passions render the nature of phenomena evident, they are not to be abandoned. By reliance upon passions, they also become a branch for accomplishing the purpose of sentient beings and are not to be abandoned. Skipping a couple of lines, the qualities of the path and the result only occur through the cause of the passions. This is because the passions are the wisdoms, so there must be familiarity with them. If one were to think that this familiarity causes bondage and wandering in the lower realms, that is not the case, since by knowing the nature of the passions and familiarizing with them, there will be no sullying effect from that, and only higher rebirth and good results will occur. And that's where this gets to be risky. You start talking about people who really don't understand Tantra and they haven't studied it, and that's the reason for keeping this secret. Moving on to 647, the second paragraph there. For instance, a single passion is seen by the hearers and solitary realizers as the object to be abandoned, whereas the bodhisattvas will engage in it as their practice. Secret mantra practitioners of the common approach will see it as an object to be purified, and the uncommon mantra practitioners will see it as an object to be accepted. Likewise, a single vessel made of gold will be unclean to those who use it as a toilet. For those who use it as a plate, it will be seen as clean. And when fashioned into a golden bracelet, it becomes an ornament. When the gold is used to make statues of deities, it becomes a support for making offerings. Likewise, although perceived in various ways by the individual vehicles due to circumstances, since the nature is primordially pure as wisdom, the passions themselves become the phenomena of the ground, path, and result. And these are all valid reasons for not abandoning the passions. And then below the quote there, delusion is the wisdom of the space of phenomena, the Tathagata family, and the samaya of Virachana. Hatred is the mirror-like wisdom of the Vajra family, the samaya of Akshobhya. Pride is the wisdom of evenness, the jewel family, the samaya of Ratnasambhava. Desire is discerning wisdom of the lotus family, the samaya of Amitabha. Jealousy is all-accomplishing wisdom, the karma family, the samaya of Amoga City. Hence, at the moment of the 5 passions arise within the minds of beings, they are perfected as the kayas and wisdoms, which is why it is taught that they need not be abandoned. Then we move on to the second set of 5 at the top of the next page, 648. The 5 to accept. And this addresses the 5 meats and 5 nectars. And so first we have the 5 ambrosias. Those would be the feces, urine, semen, blood, and brain. Since they are manifestation of the nature of phenomena, free from acceptance and rejection, they are to be accepted. Skipping the quote, they are the intrinsic nature of the 5 families. And in the next quote, the 5 ambrosias are the actual 5 families. And skipping down below the next quote, if one relies upon the 5 ambrosias and the 5 meats, the dakinis will not only gather, cities will be swift. And it lists here the 5 meats in the next quote, the first line of the next quote, the buffalo, dog, horse, human, and elephant flesh. Now again, a lot of times these are symbolically done through the Dutsi pills. And so those are then included with alcohol of some form and in taking it in that manner. But understanding that that is what we are taking. Then on 649 it continues on with some additional information about the branch vows here. The branch divisions are the 360. And this is not abandon the unsurpassed root or any of the 5 roots, comprises the method and prajna. We include the enlightened body, speech, and mind, which then multiplies that. And then we add the qualities and activities, and that multiplies that, and so on and so forth until we get to the 360. And then we multiply those by all of the different realms and all of the different universes and so forth, and all of the participants and all of the individuals of different sentient beings in each of those and so forth, and it becomes innumerable. Okay. So that is the multiplication effect. So moving on to page 650. The inconceivable divisions. This is where there's that part of it, just in the quote there, the enumerations of aspects of samaya are equal to the enumerations of sentient beings and their perverted concepts. The enumerations of samaya serve as the antidotes to tame the concepts of the victorious one himself, counts as ineffable. So then the benefits. What are the benefits of all of these offerings that we are talking about here? And actually in the form of doing practices, all temporary and ultimate goals will be accomplished. That kind of summarizes it very quickly. At the top of 651, it talks about faults. So if we don't do this, or we break the samaya, personal merit and virtue will decrease, and others will also be adversely affected. In the second quote, just as spoiled milk contaminates all milk it contacts, a practitioner with broken samaya contaminates all practitioners by contact. So we need to be careful about those kinds of things. And if it does occur, which certainly is pretty easy to happen, then we engage in the purification processes to overcome those. So the manner of restoration, what do we do when that happens? Unlike the tradition of the hearers, secret mantra engages in methods that fully restore these. So from the magnificent wisdom lightning, when samaya deteriorates, if the meaning that pleases the honorable protector, that is the master, is realized, then that will bring about the state of fulfillment. If the guru or vajra relatives are insulted, confessing with great remorse and pleasing them for the rest of this life will bring about supreme fulfillment. If one dies before making confession and fulfillment to the guru or vajra relatives, then the opportunity for restoration will have lapsed. So we want to do this right away when we have this happen. If the words of enlightened speech are transgressed, meditate upon oneself as Vajradharma, and recite the mantra for whatever has been broken 100,000 times. Now that's a fairly common one that is recited in Tantra, is if you break one of the Tantric vows, reciting the mantra 100,000 times. And if you're not sure what mantra to recite, you recite Vajrasattva. It's kind of the universal purification. But Om Ahong, or Om Ahong Hri, or even Om Ahong Hri Drum can also be used for that. So we recite 100,000 times. If words of enlightenment mind are transgressed, meditate upon oneself as Vajrasattva and remain in silence for 3 years while intensely engaged in meditative concentration. If a branch samaya is transgressed, fulfillment will occur through the individual Buddha families. Then, when the root samayas of enlightened body, speech, or mind are broken, diligently performing confession and fulfillment through the 3 doors will purify them through body, speech, and mind. The hearers, now he makes a comparison here, the different vehicles. The hearers, if there is no intent to conceal the breakage of vow, may be restored up to 7 times, but if there is intent to conceal, the vow cannot be restored even once. The vows of bodhisattvas resemble the vessel made of precious metal that has been damaged, but can be restored by a talented blacksmith. Likewise, reliance upon the virtuous spiritual guide, the vows can be restored and rendered stronger than before. The samaya of secret mantra resembles the precious metal vessel that has been dented, but can be restored through one's own efforts. So we don't need a guide, spiritual guide, to help us do that restoration. Then we have the difference between a vow and samaya. We often use those terms interchangeably, but here it makes a subtle difference, nuance. If one's mind is controlled or bound, that is a vow. So making a promise of some kind. In contrast, to hold the 3 Vajra secrets of the Buddhas and not allow this to diminish is called a samaya. So those are a little bit more specific form, if you will. Their nature is the same, but their aspects are different. At the top of the next page, in the quote itself, all 360 samayas are maintained through the 3 supreme Vajras. They are the actual samayas that will not lead one astray. And then from the Magnificent Wisdom Lightning, it states, since all phenomena are primordially pure, originally all perverted views are only pure. In this way, all vows as well are perfectly pure. A samaya such as this is truly superb. And then in the next commentary line there, the vows are the 3 categories. And those are the pratimoksha vows, the bodhicitta vows, and the vows of the Vidyadharas. So down explains that then in the bottom paragraph. The pratimoksha vows, the wish to attain personal peace and happiness, as well as at least one of 7 categories of vows to be kept until death. The vows of the bodhisattvas, the stream of mind is controlled by the morality of maintaining vows for the twofold purpose. By gathering the doctrine of virtue, both realization and special qualities are accomplished. And by working for the welfare of sentient beings, the benefit is brought to others. Then, through the vows of the Vidyadharas, great waves that fulfill the purpose of others are accomplished, and passions are transformed into wisdom. So the concise compendium states, the samaya is that since the intrinsic nature of the 3 Vajras is maintained without diminishing, the main emphasis is to bring only benefit to others. So that is our focus in the process of trying to correct whatever errors we may have done, is that we're trying to bring benefit to self and others. And then we have the way of combining all 3 vows without contradiction. So we look at these three sets of vows, and we look at this and say, well, these don't exactly, they look like they're kind of contradicting each other here, especially when you get to the ones for the Vajrasattva, the secret mantra, the vows here. Okay, so first we look at karma. And so the mantra samaya does not oppose pratimoksha vows of the hearers in order to commit the defeat of killing. So now it's going to go through each of these different basic faults. First we have killing. And so in order to defeat that, the four components must be complete. So there's four part of errors for this. And we talk about these same four sometimes when we talk about karma. Okay? So first, the object needs to be a human being. Usually we talk about it as being a sentient being, but here it says human being. With the intent to kill based on ordinary hatred. The actual act is the third one of taking a life must occur through the use of a weapon and such. And then the fourth one, you must feel satisfied with the outcome, and then all four will be complete. So that's a fairly high standard if you really think about it in terms of creating a fault. And then, next paragraph, according to mantra, at the time of liberating, the object being liberated is visualized as the syllable hung. Since that represents the unborn name, it is neither human nor non-human, such as an animal or the like, so the component of the object is incomplete. With compassion that hopes to kill, the object will be free from suffering. There is no ordinary mind intending to kill. And the component of intention is incomplete. With no object to kill and no killer, there is no life and nothing to sever, rendering the component of actual act incomplete. In conclusion, since there is no satisfaction arising based upon hatred, the component of the finality of the satisfaction also remains incomplete, leaving no accountability or fault. And so this is the kind of thing that is sometimes used for explaining or justifying, if you will, rationalizing, and perhaps in some cases taking the life of a being who is committing very harmful kinds of things. And so by doing that, we're liberating, that's the phrase that's often used, is liberating that being from all that negative karma that they accrue by committing these negative acts. On the other hand, killing is not something that we normally would want to engage in, and there are other explanations of the term killing as well. Then we go on to stealing in the second paragraph of 655 here. Here, an object that belongs to someone other than oneself involves the indivisibility of self and others. The object is actually dreamlike, so we have to have an intention to steal, and so merely the phenomena of one's mind, there is no intention to steal. The actual object must be of value and in someone else's possession, but it is like a magic or a dream, so there is nothing to be stolen. And the object has to have been acquired, but there's no fixation on an object or the activity of acquiring it. So it's going through all of these things, looking at it from this pure view perspective. Next we look at adultery in a similar way. The object is a male or female who is human, and we visualize it as a wisdom deity. For ordinary intercourse to occur, it is necessary for the penis to enter the folds within the vagina. Visualizing the organs to be Vajra and Lotus, ordinary fixation on organs is incomplete. And then desiring the experience of climactic bliss and recognizing the three mandalas, the branch of ordinary intention is also incomplete, leaving no fault. So then for lying, the next one, it is necessary for the person's mind to be affected when told the lie. So knowing that all phenomena are deceptive, words are spoken in order to benefit others, so there is no fault. When alcohol is consumed, it transformed into ambrosia and fails to contradict the explanation that it is unsuitable to partake of. Ordinarily, it is also necessary for the person to be fully ordained, having no confusion about the object, and have clarity of mind. Mantra, in the context of mantra, since everything has become the mandala of deities, this is not to contradict the pratimoksha vows of the hearers. Going on to page 656. There is no contradiction with the vows of bodhicitta, since the activity is sealed with compassion that intends to benefit others, as well as the special feature of methods, because method and wisdom, even the bodhisattvas have authorization to engage in these. And then we have the way of synthesizing these. First, looking at the hearers on the second line, the vows are primarily to accomplish their own purpose. Mantra practitioners are liberating individuals from suffering. Their mind streams are subsumed within this vow. And then we have taking a life. Since the mental non-virtue is non-existence and hatred is, as well as ordinary passions are controlled, the vow of abandoning killing is subsumed. Likewise, it applies to the remaining vows. Even if it appears that the method of conduct is outrageous, the nature of the hearer's vow is still fully subsumed in the mantra. Although the path of method may seem to have inconsistencies, ultimately the goals to abandon the passions within individuals' minds and to accomplish virtue are the same. Then we have the vows of the bodhisattvas. Since the ordinary continuum of the passions is controlled, this constitutes the morality of the vows. In dependence upon this, the qualities of the path are ever increasing, constituting the morality and increasing the virtue, or the doctrine of virtue. Through this method, benefiting others and caring for them, the morality accomplishing the welfare of sentient beings. Hence, all categories of vows of secret mantra are subsumed here. And then we get to the detail. The exposition. First, the general explanation of the nature of samaya. So, the way the secret samaya is more sublime. When an individual who has entered this unsurpassed great secret vehicle fully understands the meaning free from error, then practices, even if he or she engages in conduct and activities generated by the five passions, such as desire, this will be like performing a magical spectacle. Okay, so it's just an illusion. No obstructions or habits are accrued, and the two accumulations of merit and wisdom are perfected. The next line, the pratimoksha vows, the vows of bodhicitta, and the samaya secret mantra are fully endowed and perfected. Second, all vows are subsumed in the secret samaya. The last line of that paragraph, even the subtlest faults of the lower vehicles are perfectly pure within the higher. Third, the great root of samaya has four, beginning with killing. Ultimately, phenomena are without the limitations of existence as eternalism and non-existence as nihilism. And even that which is free from both extremes as the middle way is completely non-existent. Even though the relative appearances of liberation seem to involve a person, like magic and sentient beings, like optical illusions, at the moment of perception, since sentient beings do not exist independently, and since life itself has no true inherent existence, there is actually no life to be severed, since it is all just like a dream. These are merely the misconceptions of a confused mind, since ultimately neither truly exist. So, this is a good explanation from an ultimate point of view of these things, but at the same time, I think it's important for us to keep in mind that from a relative point of view, these things can be harmful in various ways. And so we do need to be careful about it. I'm always reminded of the statement of Padmasambhava that my mind is vast as space, but my behavior is fine as barley flour. And so I think that's one good way to keep that in mind. Another is that when we do these things, if you recall the story about the foundation of the Sakyapas, that they saw somebody engaging in sexual yoga in public, Nyingmas that they were connected to at that time. The Cone family was associated with the Nyingma tradition, and they saw some Nyingmas practicing sexual yoga in public and decided to split off from them. So that's a break in the Sangha. That's a very negative kind of a thing to happen from a relative point of view. So I do think we need to be careful about these things, even though, yes, they are pure view, and from that point of view we can just run around doing whatever we want to do as long as we maintain pure view as a part of that. At the same time, we need to be a little bit discreet in the ways that we go about doing those things. On page 659 at the bottom of the page, the last large paragraph there, so then it goes to stealing. The phenomena of both genuine and relative truths are by nature inseparable. Ultimately, they are non-existent, yet on a relative plane they exist like the way of God's emanation seem to partake in the emanations of their own abundance. By knowing the nature of things that appear as extraneous and oneself as the apprehender are ultimately undifferentiated, the process of stealings is that self-appearances partake of self-appearing substances. At the moment of stealing, since the act of stealing from another sentient being and the ordinary object possessed by them to be stolen are both non-existent, actually there is no stealing. All phenomena, including the one to be stolen from, the object to be stolen, and the thief, are primordially perfectly pure, like the space of the nature just as it is. And skipping down below the quote, another reason to steal is so the wealthy can accumulate merit and the poor can fulfill their needs. One should steal wealth from the stingy and give it to the poor and hungry. Robin Hood. Okay. Then the third one is lying. If there is a legitimate purpose to benefit others, and then according to the degree of benefit that can be derived, even telling a lie would not be negative. So if there is some way that it is providing an actual benefit from the purpose of lying is okay. Given that the intrinsic nature of the phenomena of samsara and the enlightenment are like magic or dreams, and individually designated names and words are only temporary labels based on each individual's ordinary perceptions, all of this is ultimately false. And then at the bottom of the page, by knowing this, the object of the lie, the liar himself, the telling of the lie, are false. When the moment of telling the lie by saying something is or is not, the so-called lie that seems to exist as a phenomena does not exist even as a mere designation. Even the sound itself does not exist externally or internally, since its nature is unborn, empty sound. Then below the quote there in the Vajra it states, through the activity that benefits all beings, in order to protect the wealth of the Guru and the lives of sentient beings, if necessary, one must tell a lie. Then the fourth one is adultery, being without the slightest attachment to inherent nature of all phenomena. This is the mind that realizes the empty nature of the way things abide without materializing or establishing characteristics. When realizing, it is attachment. Through prajna, that does not abide in either extreme, male and female unite as wisdom within the nature of attachment. That moment, or the moment of being without ordinary desire, constitutes the intrinsic nature of the great method of compassion. This is the king of wisdom, the indivisibility of bliss and emptiness, far supreme to ordinary desire. This extremely pure great attachment is the sacred pure conduct of the lotus family, arising as compassion for others. From the inconceivable amassing of rare and supreme, the sexual desire of an individual is just like magic or a dream, naturally empty and not existing as substance. There is no karma accumulated, nor is there a result. So then he goes into a description of how to practice. And going to the bottom of the page there, the nature. So first, the root samayas are, first, never to abandon the unsurpassed three jewels of the ground and path. Second, to show respect for all gurus with whom one is connected through Dharma and Samaya, in particular the Vajramaster of secret mantra. The guru who confers the empowerment, explains the meaning of Tantra, and reveals the Upadesha, shows kindness in these three ways. There is no guru more precious than this. The guru who has conferred empowerment and given teachings or any kind of instruction has been kind in two ways, which is the second level. If one of these three has been received, then the guru has shown kindness in one way which is not as precious as the first two. The respect that one must show will correspond to these stages. Even concerning the stages of empowerment, the higher empowerments are weightier than the preceding ones. So it can be understood that the way of respecting the guru will be similar. Third, whichever mandala is entered, the unmistaken cause to accomplish all deities is the root mantra. The mantras should be received with 5 branches, and the mudras of the individual deities maintained in 4 ways, through Samaya, Dharma, Karma, and Great or Mahamudra. These practices should be engaged in a timely and diligent manner so as not to lose continuity. And it's often said that the greatest gift that you can give to the guru is to do the practice. The fourth one is to have love for those individuals who have entered the perfectly correct path, the great vehicle. And fifth is not to speak about the obscured and hidden secret meaning of the view and conduct to those who are unsuitable vessels outside of the mandala. So for the first 3 constitute the samayas to be accomplished, and the latter 2 are the supreme samayas that guard from opposing the enlightened mind. And then the second category, so those all related to the root samayas. So then we have the branch samayas. First, the 5 to not abandon. And so here, delusion is not conceptualizing anything. Desire is ecstasy. Hatred is great clarity. Pride is haughtiness, and jealousy is great rage. From the perspective of the view of the ground, these are all primordially pure. They each constitute the path of method, and they result in the arising of the intrinsic nature of kayas and wisdom. Hence, they must never be abandoned. Then we have the samayas to be accepted. Another 5. The pure essence of the white ambrosia of bodhicitta, which is semen. The red ambrosia, blood of the lotus, feces, urine, and the great flesh. And then to not abandon means knowing that those who consider these to be unclean substances hold an attitude to be abandoned because that state of mind is unsuitable vessel for sacred substances. And then going to page 664, in the second paragraph, since these branches function as methods or supports for the root samayas, if these 10 branches of samaya are taken for granted, then everything will become ordinary. Hence, by realizing the genuine intrinsic nature of the primordially Read that again. Hence, by realizing the genuine intrinsic nature that primordially abides as the threefold purity, or body, speech, and mind, and the four states of evenness, the branches are practiced with the individual methods. And then we have the etymology, second paragraph. The 5 samayas that are guarded and practiced constitute the root samayas that accomplish secret mantra. If guarded, samadhis will be attained. If unguarded, there will be no fortune to attain the actual awakening of the great vehicles, Buddha nature. This loss is only temporary, for the fortunate of the Buddha nature will never be permanently lost, since the seeds for liberation have been sown, making it impossible for the Buddha nature to ever be lost. The Buddha nature abides in the manner of a virtuous seed from beginningless time. So even though we may break some of these samayas, we never lose our intrinsic Buddha nature. The wrathful wind blowing outside here. And then on down below the quote, there are 2 ways this Buddha nature abides, as the nature of phenomena and as the conditioned phenomena. Top of the next page. The genuine alaya is the nature of the mind, primordially pure as the nature of clear light. And skipping the quote, concerning the conditioned phenomena, it is asserted that upon the genuine alaya, like the seed of a tree, there has been an extremely subtle aspect from beginningless time that has potential to awaken as the Buddha with the major and minor marks and radiant lights. By refining this, the Rupakaya will then emerge. Skipping the quote, first the Dharmakaya is generated, and then second the Rupakaya. And then from the quote, from these 2 aspects, the 3 kayas of the Buddhas will be attained. Next page, 666 at the top. When the nature that abides as the ground awakenings, there is the fortune to generate bodhicitta and practice the path. The first sign of awakening is, as stated in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, while one is still an ordinary person, when the teachings on emptiness are heard, inner happiness will repeatedly well forth. Overwhelmed by joy, tears will flow from the eyes. One whose hair stands on end like this has awakened the seed of the fully enlightened mind. Since this person is a true vessel for the teachings, the sacred, genuine truth must be taught. The second sign of awakening, as stated in the Uttara Tantra, states, it is explained that the perfectly correct signs of awakening are preceded by compassion, faith, patience, and correct view. And then in the commentary, according to the secret mantra, this Buddha nature is like the sun, shrouded by clouds, or precious jewels stuck in the mud. It is held that the kayas, wisdoms, and pure lands exist as primordial, spontaneous presence, and that no phenomena exist that are not already primordially awakened. At the bottom of the page, hence it is held that temporarily designated stains themselves, like ice melting into water, are liberated as wisdom. And then at the top of the next page, the 5 passions are the 5 wisdoms. The 3 planes of existence are the pure lands of exaltation. Continuing in the commentary, in the second line, these teachings were also given on the occasion of the 3rd turning of the wheel during the sutra teachings on definitive truth. As the Sutra of Essence of Tathagata states, for example, even though a gold nugget falls into the mud and is lost from sight for many years, it is certain that it will never deteriorate. When someone with divine eyes sees it in order to show it to others, they will say, there is a precious nugget under there. Find it, clean it up, and cherish it. Likewise, I have seen that for a long time sentient beings have been obstructed by passions. In order to cleanse the obstructions to this nature and to realize the adventitious nature of the passions, I shall teach the method of the Dharma. And then in the next paragraph, Buddha nature will never deteriorate. According to the Yogacarya school, while temporarily practicing the path of accomplishing this Buddha nature, it still remains inconspicuous. But at the time we have full realization, then we are able to see it. Continuing on page 668, then we have the benefits and the faults here. So, in the first paragraph, the benefits of keeping samayas. Given that all phenomena represent primordial evenness as the kayas and wisdoms of awakening, the way of uniting with this meaning through the profound path of method and prajna is the great samaya of evenness. Even abiding within this nature, the resultant three kayas free of meaning and parting, the great spontaneously perfected qualities of evenness as the state of Buddha will be attained. Hence, samayas will be guarded. If samayas are transgressed, awakening will not be reached. So then we talk about the faults in the next paragraph. The faults allowing root samayas to deteriorate and how the obstruction of deterioration is harmful to others. If a person who has allowed a root samaya to deteriorate fails to quickly preserve in the methods of restoration, after having broken samaya, they should then not be associated with or even briefly spoken to, because that would bring about the suffering of illness, harm, and undesirable circumstances in this life. And in the next life, one would fall to the hells along with the samaya breaker. Moreover, the faults are derived from broken samaya are not too numerous to describe. This is also called deterioration of association. Couple more lines down, the lower mantra vehicles are stricter than the higher vehicle, and the higher are more relaxed, which means that the boundaries of the samaya are in harmony with that. So their boundaries are within the boundaries of the secret mantra, so everything is subsumed within that. Continuing at the top of page 669, the second paragraph there, the self-destruction derived if a root samaya deteriorates, that whatever one attempts to practice will be thwarted. Skipping the next couple of lines, everyone will become an adversary, and in this life there will be poverty, illness, demonic forced possession, and decreased life expectancy. All that is unwanted will come to pass, and in the next life one will fall into the hells to suffer from many kalpas. The nature of these many unpleasant disasters is based upon allowing root samaya to deteriorate, so the temporary and ultimate results will be many forms of undesired torment occurring without reprieve. The faults of allowing the branch samayas to deteriorate are there will be no result of common and supreme cities with this life's practice, and in a future life one will fall to the three lower realms. Then down below that, the next section, the intrinsic nature and divisions. The intrinsic nature of samaya. All root and branch samayas are the great Vajra nature of enlightened body, speech, and mind, the sacred nature of all Buddhas. If samayas are maintained, there will be benefits, and if squandered, that will result in great negativity. Among the 5 root samayas, for the first, to not abandon the unsurpassed, there are 2 aspects of the root method and prajna with the three aspects of enlightened body, speech, and mind, for each of them totaling 6. And so now he goes on back through these various multiplications of these, where we have 10 and 20, and then the inconceivable divisions and so forth. We get to this limitless number. So then going down to just below the middle of the page, the paragraph beginning with second. The nature of phenomena is inconceivable, so samayas are also inconceivable. Skipping a line, since the phenomena of samaya and enlightenment are primordially free from acceptance and rejection, this is the supreme victorious one, Samattabhadra, who has transcended the boundaries of abandonment and attachment. Phenomena without exclusion are subsumed as the indivisible space-like mudras. That is why this intrinsic nature, not contrived by anyone, is without the hope or fear of effort-based accomplishment. This is the supreme essence of all samayas without exception, so understand it just as it is, without fabrication, sullying factors, hope, or fear, as the great perfection of the fundamental nature. Then we go to the bottom of the next page, 671. Therefore, the genuine samaya of the fundamental nature is the primordial nature of phenomena, inexpressible, intangible, and without characteristics. The samadhi that is free from transition or change throughout the 3 times. That transcends the objective view of thought, expression, and so forth, and abides as the supremely limitless nature of samaya, a genuine fundamental nature of the great perfection. The quality of samaya, such as this, is that all other samayas are implicit without needing to be accomplished. And then in the paragraph at the top, there, the quote at the top, the last 4 lines, the one who realizes the genuine nature of mind without meditation spontaneously accomplishes all qualities without departing from this samaya. And then we have the benefits, the tremendous benefits. In the second line, there are 5 of these. First, one will be respected and praised by those of the world. Second, next paragraph, the blessings bestowed by the sublime ones are that all the gods, humans, and principal supreme ones are the Buddhas, followed by the sacred heirs who are the ground level bodhisattvas. The wisdom intent of the Buddhas will be to cherish them, that is, the samaya holders, as their principal heirs, and the bodhisattvas will consider them close siblings. The blessings of enlightened body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities will be granted. The third benefit, starting on the second line, by keeping samaya, the kingdom of the Tathagata himself, the state of the 3 Vidyadharas who arrive upon the grounds, abide on the grounds, and fully mature, will be entered. Ultimately, unity with Samattabhadra, the supreme state of fearlessness toward all phenomena, will be attained. The resultant state of the fearless Buddha Samattabhadra is explained as the state of fearlessness toward the 2 obstructions, the 4 demons, samsara, and enlightenment, and all knowable things. Becoming a Vidyadhara who arrives upon the grounds refers to those who, once entering the mandala, initially connect with the generation and completion stages. A Vidyadhara who abides on the grounds and attains realization and samadhi while maintaining that continuity. A Vidyadhara who has brought the grounds to maturity means the strength of attainment increases to ripen as the fully mature, the immortal, and the Mahamudra. And finally, this leads to the attainment of the spontaneously present Vidyadhara. Fourth, on the second line then, within this unsurpassed samaya of the fundamental nature just as it is, the sky-like nature of phenomena, the meaning of all the vehicle's methods for taming sentient beings, is synthesized. This includes the inconceivable vows of the hearers solitary realizers, bodhisattvas, and vidyadharas. All classes without exception, with all qualities remaining spontaneously present. The fifth benefit, then, although samaya may have deteriorated, the benefits of restoration are that if any of the root or branch samayas have degenerated, unlike the discipline of the hearers, where the vows become like irreparably shattered clay vessels, here, through the rituals such as empowerment, conferral, and confession, samaya will be fully restored. Becoming fully restored, just as it was before, indicates that these and other benefits of secret mantra are infinitely supreme. So one of the ways of correcting faults is going back and redoing the empowerment. And then in the synopsis here, having expressed this, the assembly of the self-appearing Tathagatas themselves pay homage to the principal one of the mandala, the Tathagata Samittabhadra himself. So that concludes chapter 19.